Hi, in today's video, we're going to go over the process of making a hand-paint Koinobori with the Koinobori painting kit that you purchase. Inside the kit, there is a board. It's a solid Japanese cedar wood, a set of acrylic paint, a brush set, a template and instructions, 2 transfer sheets, a color tray, and a towel to help you clean the brushes. Let's get started. So the first step is to outline the Koinobori onto the wood board. So if you open the instructions, you'll see this part that says template and pointing up. These fish here should be a perfect match of the board. So what we're going to do next is to cut out the entire fish to extract this part from the template, and then we're going to chase these lines onto the board. Now our template is ready for tracing. And before we start tracing, I want to take a moment to talk about the instruction sheet. Now that we have just extracted the fish from the template, below this dotted line, it shows the steps that it takes to finish, to paint the coin. Starting from extracting the template, which we just did. The second step is to chase the outline, followed by painting some of the colors, more colors, and eventually finish with a layer of white paint and some decorations. In this step, which is step 2 on your instruction, we're going to chase the outline onto the wood board. So to do that, first we need to put the board in a good flat position. And then there are 2 transfer sheets, and with the darker side facing down, because that's where the ink is. So we have 2 because one is not big enough to cover the entire board. Just do that. And then you're gonna put the paper template on top. Try to find where the wood board is. You can't see it at this point, but align the paper template to the wood board, because you can feel it if you run your fingers on the top and the bottom. It doesn't have to be exact, but you will eventually feel it. Then it's right on top of the wood board, and it aligns. And go it down. You need to hold this in position while you're chasing it. I would recommend you either use masking tape to tape down the transfer sheets. I also have a clamp here. If you don't have it at home, you can just use masking tape or office tape to tape down the top so that the template doesn't shift. The reason why we need to do that is to make sure that the paper doesn't shift away from the board, and as we're chasing, we can lift the transfer and the paper template to check our progress. So to chase, you either need a pencil or just use the back of a brush. Try to find a thinner one. In this case, I will use a pencil so that I can see my progress. So just use the pencil to chase all the lines. As you can see that my outlines are not perfect, but that's okay. You just they're just there to tell you where everything goes. Eventually, all these lines are going to be covered by the acrylic paint, so it doesn't have to be super accurate. We just finished step 2 of the process, which is tracing the outline onto the board. Now we're moving on to step 3. On the instruction, the sample is in green. In the acrylic pack, there are 12 different colors, and you're free to choose whatever color you want. Black, it's usually for to represent the father. Like if this green part is in black, traditionally in Japan, black is the father Koi's color. Red is for mother. Blue is for the son of the family, and green usually represents the daughter. So in this case, I'm going to use a lighter green, a darker green. Let's just start with these 2 colors. I suggest to start with painting the circle, filling the circle inside the scale. I suggest to do that first, but you don't have to be too careful, and you can even paint over the line. And if you make any mistake, then all those extra paints will be covered when we paint the other area in a different color. Acrylic, it's a very forgiving medium. If you make a mistake, you can easily cover it with a different color. And one painting techniques that I often teach my students is to start with a clean edge. What I mean by that is find the edge of the area where you want to paint, and then take a deep breath and run along the edge. Let's get a closer look. So what I mean by that is, let's say if I'm painting this area, so this is the edge, right? I want to make sure that my edge is clean. Just run the brushes like that. Now I have some buildups of paint in this area. So what I need to do is to push the paint towards the center. So the second part of the process, it's pretty easy, because all you have to do is to push the buildup to the center, and your edge is clean. Okay? Now let's just repeat this process. Watch it one more time. If you're a beginner, you're not used to controlling or holding a brush, what you have to do is to turn it around and run the motion a few times to let your hand muscle get used to the movement. And then now you can turn around. Remember, try to get a clean edge. Take a deep breath. Turn. You can even paint over the outlines. It's okay, we can cover it later. Now that my edges, I have a really sharp and clean edge, but there's some buildups here. So what I have to do next is just to push the buildups to the center. Nice and easy. Now that I finished painting inside the scale, I'm gonna give it some time to dry. While I'm waiting, I'm gonna move on to painting the yellow part. Now we finish part 1 of the painting of step 3, the painting part. And I'm going to move on to laying down the lighter green. I'm going to start with the bigger blocks of green and slowly move on to the finer lines. I'm not touching the yellow part because it is still wet. So you shouldn't touch any part that is wet. Wait until it's dry before you repaint it or add another color. So in the instruction, there's some oranges on the yellow pieces, but because it's wet, I'm going to do the other part, and then I'll come back to this at the end after it's dry. Now that I've finished painting with the primary colors, everything is dry, it's time to move on to the white paint. And I want to point out that there are 3 stripes here, and when I paint the green, I didn't leave space for the white, because it's much easier to just paint it all in green, and for as long as I can still see the outline, I can easily paint white over it. Same as here at the top, there's supposed to be 4 white lines here, but it's much easier to just paint the whole thing in green and use white to go over it after. Now that we have finished painting, it's time to add the final touches.